Well, I first started making music in like elementary school and band and all that, and then getting like acoustic guitar in high school was when I started my first songwriting. Was in a rock heavy metal band for 5 years, and then in 1998 started producing as Random Rab.
Why did you first start producing as Random Rab? What was the reason for that?
Well, the reason was being in bands all these years and always having to have a drummer or the bass player, all these different elements, one by one. The bass player, the girlfriend gets pregnant, the drummer loses his mind and starts drinking, whatever. So it's like, well, how are we going to replace these people? Let's get a drum machine. Let's get a sampler. Let's get a sequencer. And before you know it, I had amassed all this gear to make our band more complete with all these members. And then when that project ended, I had all this gear, and I was like, well, what if I just started making music with hardware? This is before I had a computer.
Yeah.
And so that's where it all kind of began, was just, I was like, let's see what happens if I go out on stage and just try and make all this gear work. So, I mean, it was an interesting time because at that point, there was a little bit of an attitude about electronic music being kind of like a rave thing, and people hadn't really accepted it. And I actually had a guitar player once, after one of my first sets, came up to me and just cussed me out. He's like, who the fuck do you think you are? This isn't real music. And you DJs are ruining it for all of us, and I'm like, well, I'm not a DJ for one, and even if I was, we're not ruining anything. This is all about making music. And so it was interesting to see. I mean, that's a pretty tangential experience, I guess, compared to the main experience, which was great. It's a new thing. Electronic music at that time was like fresh, and I felt like there wasn't a lot of people to look to like associate myself with. So it was really exciting as an artist to be like, what is this? How do we make this work? And how do we perform a show and an album, whatever?
What inspires you to create a song? From where do you draw the inspiration?
I think for me, it's I try to draw the inspiration from the music itself. And my process is a lot like, there's this book by David Lynch, now the name is escaping me, but he has this whole philosophy about, when you start a creative project, it's really about just throwing in a minnow, and you can't eat the minnow. The minnow doesn't serve you in any way, but you catch a bigger fish, you catch a bigger fish, and a bigger fish, and finally you've caught something substantial. And so for me, creating music is very similar to that, in that it's really about just like dabbling in sound and trying to find the inspiration through that. That way I'm not waiting for inspiration to hit me. I'm actually creating an environment where inspiration is available to me.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you're just waiting for that moment, it may never come, or you get kind of complacent with your life and be like, I don't feel inspired today.
Yeah.
But if you actually just say, no, I'm going to actually look for that inspiration through the music itself, then the inspiration comes to you.
Have you ever produced music that was inspired by life events or something you've been going through?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything kind of, through that process, it's like a meditation. And what the music does for me personally, and it's different for everyone, is that it stimulates parts of my brain that otherwise are dormant.
Yeah.
And so usually what happens is it's just whatever life experience I'm dealing with at that moment kind of just gets channeled in, and it becomes a meditative process. Sometimes it's overwhelming and I have to just completely walk away from the song and be like, I can't think about this thing it's making me think too much, basically.
Can you talk about one of those times, maybe when you're low points, when you're going through like a lot of depression or anxiety or something, that you found a way to channel those emotions into a creative process?
So many times. I mean, literally on the verge of suicide, and I had so many, especially when I was, younger, 19, 20 years old, there's a lot more angst. And, there was a time when the type of music I created was more angry and aggressive, and I used those emotions. And then at some point, I discovered that it's better, what I was doing was avoiding my problems through the music. And so now I try to create stuff that actually helps me work as a tool. So using music as a tool rather than as just a pure expressive point of release, So the songs, in a way, have now become, for me personally, in my own music and the way I use it, is a set of tools that can help me through different emotional parts,
So what was the turning point from early on producing music, with channeling a certain set of emotions, to now that when you produce music and you've been doing it for so long and you have it down in a formulaic way, but what was the evolution of producing your inspiration for producing music?
Well, I would say that there was the point for me was when the music. There was a point, like in high school and whatnot, where the music was more of a way for me to be known, to be popular, to be able to show a part of myself that other people didn't see, and so it was a much more of a social experience. And there must be something going on out there. So the music was more of an egoic, served me more egoically. But after I think with any kind of craft, the longer you work on it, you start to appreciate the craft for what it is in itself. And I think for me, the turning point was just really acknowledging that, hey, I'm not making music to get a girlfriend. I'm not making music to be popular. These are not the reasons I'm interested in it. I'm actually interested in the music, and I want to be more interested in the music. And what does that even mean to me? And I think that's the point when any artist, if they work on their craft long enough, discovers that like what they think the reasons are that they're doing it are actually different, and what you can express by letting the expression just move through you rather than trying to craft an identity for yourself, you will find that what you make is actually maybe not what you thought it was, and serves you in a different way. And to follow that path, here, almost 20 years later of producing as Random Rab, I finally discovered, that it's, and like you're saying, it's almost become less formulaic. It's become more of innocent exploration and discovering that it's so much more complex than I ever can possibly imagine to create a piece of music. It's not simple, it's not easy, it's not something that you can just learn and be a master of it. Music is the master and you are the student. Your art is the master and you need to be the student, and it will never be a master in that way.
Is there a song that you have in your rotation right now where you channeled some kind of emotions into that creative expression?
Yeah, actually. Well, I've just finished a new album, so I've been busy in the studio working, and the biggest distraction in this whole process was the whole election cycle and all the drama around that. And it was actually very hard for me to focus on anything but that, and getting sucked into the whole political scene. And whether it's positive, whether I agree with these people or not, all these different feelings came up for me, and I had to deactivate my Facebook account and just like pull away, stay engaged in the knowledge, but pull away from the emotional aspect of it. And the breakthrough for me was writing this song called "A Little More Free," which is my sort of way of taking all the feelings around like with objects like the wall. I chose to use, like, instead of the wall that divides humanity, the wall that bridges humanity. So that's like a lyric in the song, and the whole point of the song is like we all need to be just a little more free. And what does that mean to be a little more free? And that's the only way to reach total freedom, is to think about it in these small step increments of a little more free, a little more free, a little more free, instead of a little more oppressed, a little more restricted, a little more confined. And so the fight has to be it's a small thing that we all can do within ourselves to be a little more free. So that's the name of the song that I'll be performing, and I'm really excited about. And it's, I just released a new music video for it too. So anyway, that's one of many, but that answers your question, I think.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So did deactivating your Facebook make you feel a little more free?
Absolutely. It was the best thing I had ever done for my creative process. Like it not just like not checking the Facebook, but actually deactivating, because then you're gone from that. And the first couple of days I'm an adult, but for some reason I was like, I didn't realize how weird it would feel to deactivate and pull away. I was like, this feels so strange. But after a few months, I became so much more clear in who I was and what I felt, rather than constantly trying to compare myself to other people, good or bad, and also just, I feel like for me, that whole, too much social media means you lose kind of a sense of what you believe in yourself, and you start to become an amalgamation of all your friends and all the stuff around you. So to let go of all that is a really powerful thing. I really recommend it to anyone that finds themselves in a slump artistically, is to pull away from social media. Just don't make a big announcement about it. Don't make a big show about it. Just stop, and you'll find that it really will inspire you. So it's a little thing, but it helps.
Walls that bridge humanity, just need to be a little more free. I don't wanna crawl, I think I might wanna. I just need to be a little more free. I don't wanna fall, I think I might wanna. I just need to be a little more free. I don't wanna crawl, I think I might wanna. I just need to be a little more free.